are undisputed. And you can see from these pictures the unquestionable adverse effects of e-cigarettes to the health. Nakakamatay at nakakasira ng buhay ng mga tao, including ang mga kabataan natin. For that the public that is watching this Blue Ribbon hearing knows enough to understand why I call this hearing for the Blue Ribbon. So during the pandemic, there were a lot of reported cases, and we have, yeah, can you show it? There were a lot of, they're known as EVALI cases. Ito yung e-cigarettes or vaping use associated lung injury. So all of this was in the news. No, I would say 5 years ago, I didn't even know what an e-cig is. I didn't even hear of it. What we see are people smoking. But in the last maybe half a decade, yun na nga, naging common sa atin to hear of people vaping, for people using e-cigs. That's a common terms used, but there are technical terms for this that differentiates one from the other, HTPs, novel tobacco products, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, the ill effects of these products are undisputed. And you can see from these pictures the unquestionable adverse effects of e-cigarettes to the health. Nakakamatay at nakakasira ng buhay ng mga tao, including ang mga kabataan natin. 1 in 5 adult Filipinos are currently tobacco users. That's 1 in 5, so 20%. That's not something to be proud of. Sa mga bata naman, ages 13 to 15, 12.5%, which is equivalent to around 762,000 students, are currently tobacco users. When it comes to vapes and e-cigs, as of 2021, 2.7 million Filipinos are vape users. Is that small? Is that big? Well, think about it this way. 5 years ago, may vape users ba? O ngayon, may vape users na tayo. And the studies show, the research shows that most people do not shift from cigarette smoking to vape or e-cig using. They become dual users. This is not a health hearing, so I will not go into the details, but I need to explain because we have students, we have reporters, and they need to understand bakit ba napunta sa Blue Ribbon to. Dahil ang Blue Ribbon, kailangan iniintindi niya kung ginagawa ng government officials ang trabaho nila. So kung ang Department of Health, trabaho nilang kalusugan, ina-expect ko sila ang mag-iintindi nun. So kung yung ibang government officials nakikialam doon, nanggugulo pa, kailangan ko din malaman yon dahil hindi na nila trabahong manggulo. And it becomes a crime if they are doing that. So about 14%, 1 in 7 students aged 13 to 15 say they are now currently using e-cigarettes. I ask you, those of you sitting here, may anak ba kayo? I have a 13-year-old son. Once a week, natatanong ko siya kung alam niya yan, alam niya bawal, but I am so scared. When is that day that it's going to be an uso thing for him and his friends? And then mababalitaan nila sa news na Dirty Ashtray Award tayo. Dahil pinaglalaban ng mga officials natin na, and I'll just highlight this one thing that is very upsetting to me. Article 9 and 10, specifically of the convention, refer to the need to report. I will read it to you. No, that's not Article 9 and 10. Okay, ito na. Here in the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, there's Article 9 and Article 10. Article 9 deals with regulation of the content of tobacco products. Article 10 deals with regulation of tobacco product disclosure. So sa madaling salita, Article 9 says, kailangan magkaroon ng testing, measuring of the contents and emissions of tobacco products and to regulate it. Article 10 says, i-disclose to, ipaalam sa publiko. Kasi ang lumalabas na information galing sa mga tobacco and sa mga companies that sell vapes and e-cigarette is mas okay sa'yo yan, healthy sa'yo yan. So sabi ng WHO framework, i-disclose nyo, kailangan sabihin nyo sa tao, ano yung laman ng mga produktong yan? Ano laman ng vape? May asido ba yan? Anong chemicals meron yan? Nakakamatay ba yan? Nakakakalbo ba yan? Nadudurog ba yung laman loob mo dyan? Hindi ko alam. Hindi ko nga alam eh. So we should know. Yun lang naman ang sabi ng Article 9. I-disclose nyo. O di ba pag bumili kayo ng pagkain, canned goods, nakasulat doon kung ano yung laman ng canned goods na yun, sodium. Kung may beans man nun, beans. Kung bawal ka sa karne, alam mo, ay may karne dito, hindi ako kakain nito. So dapat, yung nilalanghap mo sa vapes and e-cigs, alam mo din yung laman. Yun ang sabi ng Article 9. I-disclose. To test and measure the content para pag sinabi nila, syempre ano i-disclose nila kung ayaw nila magpa-test. Di kailangan i-test yun, di ba? Para alam kung ano yung laman nun. Lumagpas ba yun sa percent na safe sa human? Is there such a thing as safe for certain chemicals? Baka wala namang safe. That's why we have to test. And then i-disclose. So sa pagkakaalam ko, and we will now open the floor for the resource persons to speak, ito yung hinarang. Ito yung natagalan at hindi tuloy nabigyan ng resolution. So hindi tayo naka-move forward to create an expert group that would be able to finalize the implementation of these provisions. So babalik tayo ngayon, and my challenge now, and at the end of the hearing, I will ask DOH if they have the political will and the authority to do it, and if they have the support of the other agencies, o sige, kung sabihin nyo, we are sovereign, kasi meron nakikita akong sa position papers nyo, we are sovereign. Okay, we are sovereign. Kaya natin, we have the political will to test these products, to ensure that the emissions and the contents of these products will be made known to the public, so that ang bawat nanay, ang bawat tatay, ang bawat teenager, ang bawat lola at lola, alam nila kung anong nilalanghap nila.
I deeply apologize if this has brought embarrassment to you, Madam Chair, and to our countrymen who may feel the same way. This is not part of my statement, Madam Chair, but I'd just like to put it on record that before I left, flew back to the Philippines, I spoke with all the members of the delegation. I mentioned to the delegation, maybe for COP11, we can come up with an enforcement framework. An enforcement framework in which we can eradicate or mitigate illicit trade of tobacco, and also to stop the sale of e-cigarettes to the minors. And this was well taken, appreciated by the Department of Health, Department of Education, and even the other members of the delegation. And this can be supported by the members who are present here as well. Thank you to the Senate Committee on Accountability of Public Officers and Investigations and the Senate Committee on Health and Demography for this opportunity to provide clarity on this matter, Madam Chair. I'm open and willing to hear any questions from you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much. Delegation was the members of the delegation were already listed even before probably I came on board.
Yes.
I was ushered in as head of the delegation as early as like September. Late September, Madam Chair.
So there's already
there was already meetings being conducted, undertaken by the rest of the agencies representing the delegation.
Would you be able to tell me who, before you came on board then, who was organizing this, who was putting the group together? Because it's 34. I mean, wow. Dami tayong pera para magpadala that delegation. I was very patient listening to the speeches, but I'm taking a break now to just ask pointed questions because I want to know what each one did in participating there. From ang pagkaintindi ko kay Administrator Sanchez, first time niya, marami siyang natutunan. Yun ba yung reason kaya ito pupunta doon sa health conference? Kasi as far as I know, kaya I was referring to IAC NTA is because member dyan ng Department of Health, no? So Department of Health is supposed to represent you now when it comes to health concerns. So can you elaborate?
Madam Chair, no? Well, when I heard that there's a huge number of participants to attend, the first thought that came to my mind was the fact that of the importance of COP10. And that's the reason why we had to have all agencies of government involved in health, public health, including the Maybe Tobacco Association, to be a participant in COP10. That's the first thought that came to my mind. I never really thought of the expense because, again, this was my first time as well to head a Philippine delegation, my first trip abroad as after being appointed as the Senior Deputy Executive Secretary. So I thought it was a regular thing that considering that we have a whole of nation, whole of government approach, and this is how it is would come out as a delegation to the COP10. But having seen this, after seeing the members, maybe I could say that medyo exaggerated. You could have limited the number of delegation to a simple, those who maybe matter most. But I would say that the Department of Health DILG, DepEd definitely, DTI,
Well, for the
NTA.
record, Secretary Abalos called me and at least he told me candidly that he doesn't know anything about it. So, I don't know. I'll hear from DILG later kung ano yung role niyo doon. Kasi that's his candid response to me when he received my invitation.
Pero Madam Chair, when we were drafting the Philippine statements, the ALG is very critical in the chain because they deal a lot with the LGUs. No? If you want to eradicate, let's say, or stop the sale of e-cigarettes on minors, the ALG will play a big part of it because we have to get the LG on board as well.
Yes, I understand. I want to go now to well, anyway, sorry, before I go to my next point. So if you were to trim this body, who would you take out?
I'd take out NTA. I'll get the details from the NTA, definitely. I mean, as part of my preparation for the COP10 or
No, because
COP11.
that nothing prevents you from meeting all of them here in the Philippines, right?
And that's what we
Wala
did.
namang problema
That's
na
what we did.
mag-usap kayo lahat dito, mag-10 meeting
Opo.
kayo, paulit-ulit kayo. Pero yung sumama pa lahat doon, at yun nga, and later on we'll hear from the advocates I'm sorry, Administrator Sanchez, you do not recognize the importance of the Dirty Ashtray Award, no? I'm sorry na para sa'yo, naninindigan ka na walang significance yun. Pero para sa akin, and I've represented our country many times over the last 20 years, it matters to me what other people think of our country. It matters to me that they respect our policies. It matters to me na pinapahalagahan nila yung pinaninindigan natin. So I'm sorry that you do not see the importance of that. Maybe because it's your first time. I don't know.
If I may.
Anyway, you know what?
Yes.
I will not ask you to continue answering my question. Okay. More important for me is what do you think is a reasonable size delegation for future purposes?
Okay, Madam Chair. For starters, Madam Chair, when we crafted the Philippine statement, everyone was present. I mean,
Okay,
from all
and
different
that's good.
regions of government.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. So for those, because
But you
it's a
recognize it's a health conference, ha?
it is a health
You
conference. yes.
recognize it's a health
And
conference.
I recognize as well now, Madam Chair, that it's a debate.
And
it's
you
a-
recognize that this whole of government approach is a tobacco lobby. You don't have to answer that. That is my statement.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Because
Uh,
it is a tobacco lobby. For all of you who will pretend ignorance, who will feign ignorance, it is a tobacco lobby. Because none of you, I have asked you, I've asked all of you, I've given you many times to answer my question. Gumanda ba buhay ng ating mga magsasaka, ang active tobacco farmers? Dahil sa inyong balance policy. Gumanda ba? Wala naman sumagot. Nagbigay naman ako ng chance sa inyo paulit-ulit. Tapos nakinig ako sa kahaba-habang statement ng NTA. For the record, sa lahat ng iba kong hearing, di ako nagpapabasa ng statement, okay? Because I expect the statements to be given to me ahead of time. I will read it before I come here, and then you will just give me highlights of your statement. But because it is my first Blue Ribbon hearing, I was giving all of you the full, your complete chance to tell me whatever you want to tell me. And I'm repeating my questions. Ang sinabi naman ni Administrator Sanchez, pasama ang kalagayan ng mga magsasaka natin. So ano ba natulong ng balance policy? Dahil dumami kayong pumunta doon, gaganda ba kalagayan ng ating magsasaka? Dahil ba na-delay ang proseso ng pag-approve ng Article 9 and 10 dahil dito sa working group, expert group? It's very technical for the ordinary citizen to understand kasi proseso ito, and I have so much respect for the DFA kasi napaka-detalyado tong mga prosesong to. Pero ang puntos lang naman ito, it is a declaration of the contents, yung laman ng ating mga produktong binibenta natin sa kabataan, hindi sa kabataan pero napupunta sa kamay ng kabataan, i-declare lang ang laman nito, and then gawing public. Yun lang naman ang punot dulo nun. Pero humaba pa at hindi naman na-approve. Kaya nagkaroon, ma'am, for your information, kaya ho nagkaroon ng Dirty Ashtray Award kasi nako-consider po itong delaying tactic. For your information lang po. Kaya ho tayo nabibigyan and we've received it for 5 years. So favorite po tayo. 5 years na tayo nakakatanggap ng gano'n. Because of